Victorian vulval vivication. God, let me love her. Whirling dervishes are askance dancers, half-wedding vows part in violence, and the velvet honeycomb dries vitreous before her vitality would unveil in my eyes. She, inciter of voyeurism, my head is needled as evergreen for her vertigo visage. She's my tutor of voodoo, instigator of vagary, inciter of verbosity, and vitiator of for all my valor. This is my vindication against your accusations. She is the vanguard of the muses, with her lips volatile and her smile virile. I have no vacillation in my voracious vow. Deluvia, darling, alluvia for your vulva and all your values, and your valves I vault east and west, a sunset that comes so fast. An omnipresent executive calls out devilry, but oh, roving her quivering exclave makes my jaw ventail violently, such violent evening cravings when we double dumver our bodies, deep ventral vibrating, think virus, vomit, verruca, ah, better. Valley gloving me and she avulses, shrieks like a Viking. Oh, it's not easy. Invoking something they're forever subverting and veiling in versions, vapid versions of you, and covering in verdicts on behalf of their so-called bullshit virtues. Those culture vultures know nothing of our vivication. You know, I love your vein raid velar vallis. Inhale and slowly lick my fingers of you. Your vanilla, solvent, and saliva more vehemently than they have ever vowed to abort their own libidos. They say you should be evicted and indicted before vacating your vogue velvets for me. I am that vain and ungovernable vampire they warned you of. I'm a verist for your villier breasts, your villainous voice with severe small talk of velamin and never rusting yet, and that one violet night I fell violently in love when you braided the vomit out of my hair with your lavender nails. And you keep me vibrant, though our veranda is grievously all vine and balcony, overlooking all the vapid visitors here. I'll vie to stay forever your vessel, violently open your lonely strait of bottomless waiting. O Lady of Raja, I'm waiting. Thank you. This is called Sex Dreams in Church. In the second to last pew, my damnation sinks in, and I am suddenly breathless, my bare thighs sweating against the wooden bench. The pepper-haired preacher is droning rhythmically, calling out beyond the room, saying, sex is an act determined by its spiritual culmination, a prize that is not evanescent, not a climax, but conception. His voice blurs again. Now I am kneeling, naked, in the koi pond of the Catholic order, sighing as I stroke the fish man, his gray gill lungs crushing at the surface, his scaled penis floating on the water, my hand wrinkled and pale under the clouding surface, crouching, half naked, in the sperm coffin of the pond. Beyond, I hear you laughing. I realize I am touching stone. I realize I am stone. And stirring the sediment I drag up from the water. Through the river reeds and orange spirals of koi fishes, I see you, laurel-headed and melted out of Willendorf, trailing mud and golden leaves. Under the dappled of water patterns, you are glowing blue with skylight as the black cobblestones in Vatican City in the heat of smoldering Roman afternoons. The preacher's mouth melts into your sideways violin lips, his voice slipping into yours. Now, instead of shouting, you are abomination. It is your voice whispering. In the heavens, there is a field of watermelons. The roots are unseen. The fruits seem to be floating in the field, unrooted, as if thrown there by some petulant godchild after rioting over some virgin who refused to be taken, and the godchild's feet smash the watermelon open, and the globes are dented with red lip splits. And I glance over at you, your hand damp on my thigh. Last night, you and I role-played as the original lovers. You push me down on your floral print sheets and climb onto me and sing me the story of the second attempt at creation that was written out of the Holy Testament, when the Creator cast off mud and chose pine, because the mud people could not love each other, because the pine people could not stop touching each other. Our envy of the freedom of the others turns us into evergreens, bristling into pine needles, our breasts toughen into pine cones, cutting our fingers, tongues swollen and scraped. Your vulva swells into a fish head, and it swallowed God's whole flood. You kissed me at my neck quickly, a sudden wrench inside me, just missing the preacher's stare. And the saints, he says, what form do they take? How do they appear to us? His lips quiver as my lids lower, and I see these saints, untaught young sadists seeking out God in blood, mapping the interior of the human body for answers, scratching their way out of penitentiary towers, fingernails running with blood, leaving a track behind them as they run, running till they reach the sea. Here they convulse and transform into lobsters and achieve pure enlightenment. All-knowing crustaceans, they clamp their claws in mute ecstasy, filing onto the surf of the tide as it rises to meet them. I look up, the preacher is right above us. I let go of your hand, let it fall to the bench. It was all hallucination, he says with his eyes. The devil is a woman, with his eyes undressing me like the man at the beach who pressed up against me hard while I was waiting in line by the outdoor shower. When his wife walked around the corner, she looked at me with hatred and suspicion, and I heard him call me a temptress, quite a feat for 15. But here's what really happened with you. It was not an ocean, it was not a flood, but a pool. You offered me a cigarette and I turned you down. We were up to our waists in the stagnant warm water. I stared at the smoke slithering from your lips like a devil's tail. You caught me staring and the hairs on my arms stood up. Our knees brushed for a second. You finished the cigarette and walked away to lie in the sun. The preacher is still smirking at me. I am gripping the edge of the wooden pew. When everyone's heads are lowered in prayer, he leans close to my ear and says, just keep your hands on the wood, sweetie, and be good. Thank you.